Hello, 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 and welcome to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I am your host, Donnie Corum, the Foreclosure Deals Coach. And on this show, we're going to be talking about the recent shakeup in the Colorado Springs City Council with a lot of diversity finally showing up in Colorado Springs local government. Really excited to talk about this show today and why it's important to real estate investors to have that diversity. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast, the show where we discuss the mindset, tactics, and tools that you need to become a successful real estate investor through our foreclosure profit system, the system designed to help you find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a foreclosure deal right in our target markets of Colorado Springs and Arizona, and with an average target profit of $25,000 or more. It's happening, people. There's a lot of great deals hitting the marketplace. Would love to have you on board with that. Let's hop right in today. You know, a lot is happening at the city council level, and Colorado Springs in general is just under a lot of change at the moment. And, you know, people have asked me recently, how did you end up working in the political field? And I want to give just a little backstory because I'm not really a political guy. I'm not against politics. I definitely see the importance of the political realm. But there was a story where I was working with a good friend of mine, Eton. He's a local concert promoter here. And many years ago, I met Eton and he took me to Jamaica. I have family in Jamaica. My roots are from there. My mom was born in Kingston, Jamaica. My dad was born in Aruba. So a lot of roots there in that market. Anyway, so we met up and we went out there and just had discussed some business, learned a little bit more about the Jamaican real estate market. It was super eye-opening and amazing. But the real takeaway was that we wanted to put together a reggae festival right here at the Colorado Springs marketplace. So we started working together to find venues and et cetera. And Eton really led the charge on this, eventually getting the Jamaican Jerk Festival lined up right here in Colorado. It took place at the Flying W Ranch here locally, and it was an incredible event. Well, a lot of the funding for that event came from LART, which is Lodging and Resort Tax, right here in the Colorado Springs City Council. So that was the basis of the funding. He brought in Ziggy Marley, was one of the acts. It was just an incredible event with food and music, very well put on because Eton's an incredible event promoter and planner. But in the second year of it, things were lined up to get the Marley family back out here and a couple other bigger acts like Sean Paul and et cetera. And there was some difficulty getting the funding from LART to do the event the second time. This was not great because some promises had been made to the promoters, the acts, et cetera, that we were going to do this as an annual thing. And this was going to be the second year of the event, right? So here we are in a situation where we need to get city council approval for funding. We got to get approval for the event permits and things of that nature, and just found that it was much more difficult to get this very necessary cultural experience into the city. In addition, for those who know me personally, you know that I live in a loft, the Giddings Lofts in downtown Colorado Springs, Colorado, so right above Bonnie and Reed and the Rabbit Hole. And I love my loft. It's one of my favorite places I've ever lived. I'm right here in the parade route. But one of the things that really bothers me and has for the 3 years that I've lived here is there's a lot of parades, a lot of representation from other cultures. There's obviously a couple of parades related to the Flying W and the cowboy era here in Colorado. Super important to have that. We've got the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the Veterans Day Parade. They canceled the Martin Luther King Day Parade this year, which was a little discouraging. But there's really not been a dedicated Black American parade here in Colorado Springs. Okay. And it's not for lack of trying, I don't think. I think it's just that there's a permitting approval. You got to get the street blocked off. You got to get the police involved to secure it. And there's a lot that happens if you're trying to put together a parade. So for many years, I've wondered why we didn't have a parade of any caliber for African Americans, which is bothersome to me because I am an African American, right? And I just want to make sure that my culture amongst the other cultures are properly represented here in the city. So that led to also wanting to have a talk with city council about how to promote. It's not city council's fault. You need promotion. You need somebody to manage that event. And obviously, you also need city council's input on it. But when you don't have a lot of diversity in the city council at the leadership level, you're also going to lack that same ability to get some of these events like Eton's Jamaican Jerk Festival and a Black Parade done. So there was a big push just talking with city council about this, and with a notable lack of representation at the city council level, it was difficult to get that kind of thing done. Now, I'm proud to say that we do have a Black mayor, Yemi Mobilad, who's doing an incredible job, in the perch that he's in. But you got to, if you understand how the government works, without city council support, Yemi's ability to get much done as far as diversity type programs has been very stifled and limited. And I know he's trying, and I know he's trying to get the word out about these kind of events, but you really need to have city council and the mayor's office sort of on board, working in lockstep for that kind of thing to function. So there hasn't been a lot of diversity in city council for many, many years. The last known Black member of city council was, I believe, in the 80s, early 80s to mid 80s. Leon was that gentleman's name. And unfortunately, since that point, we haven't seen much of any Black representation at the city council level. So that's where my interest in politics kind of took flight. I started going to city council meetings, learned a lot more about how the city operates. I know people have busy lives and things, but I want to advise you, come to the city council meetings. Either join up with them, they're broadcast online. That's super important. Or just come to the meetings. You can come attend live. I have no excuse to not go to these meetings. It's literally walking distance from my house. So there's no reason for me not to be there with more consistency. And I'm ashamed to say I don't go as often as I probably should. But I encourage you to get involved with what's happening at the city politics level. Well, recently, like this week, there's been a race going on. The ballots were finalized for city council. And there was a couple of candidates that was really interested in to get onto city council. And the first one was Roland Rainey. And Roland and I met up. I was introduced to him at one of the many networking events that I attend. Just an incredible guy. He owns a Floyd Mayweather boxing gym here in town. And so he's a fellow entrepreneur, very busy guy, a lot going on. And he just believed when I talked to him that he could make a change at the city council level. And I was just enthralled by his vision and plan to get that done. So obviously became a supporter of that. I threw a campaign fundraising event. Campaign fundraising is a lot harder than they make it look, for sure. So I wish I could say that the turnout was much bigger than it was, but I think we did okay considering. Had an incredible music act there. We did a show at a Bar 33. My good buddy Raphael played music there, and he did a wonderful job of all of that and getting things moving as far as that goes. So excited by that, and raise some awareness for Roland. I'm proud to say that Roland was selected for District 6, which is kind of out east of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So he is our new city council member at District 6. Super proud of him, excited about what he can do for the city. But, one would have been amazing. And I would frank with you and just say we were super excited to potentially get one African-American city council member. I'm super proud to say that we also got Kimberly Gold, a good friend of mine and current president of the Black Chamber of Commerce here in the city of Colorado Springs. She is a huge advocate for the city, working to resolve an area that is notorious for not voting very much. So that's super exciting that there was some voter turnout to support her, and she won the race as well. So all of this is to say that there's going to be a major shakeup in the political landscape here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And it couldn't happen any sooner. This is not just about black or white or ethnicity or any of that. This is about changing the city. And altering the city is going to require the input of multiple people. You need to have multiple opinions in order for a city to advance. I'm not going to lie to you. It's tough to find culture here in the city of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Even with the black mayor, which was super exciting for me, again, with his limitations, with not having a ton of city council support, he hasn't gotten a ton done. So what does that mean for real estate investors? Why is it important to us as investors to have proper representation at the city council level? Well, if you're going to change the city, you're going to need to attract other types of people to the city. Okay, and that seems pretty logical when you say it out loud. Colorado Springs is a notoriously Caucasian city, right? And it has been for a very long time. What people don't know, and I grew up here in Colorado Springs, so I'm not knocking the city's dynamics by any means. This is my hometown for certain, although I was born in Jersey and spent time in Brooklyn as a child because I have family out there. This is my hometown from a very basic sense. I grew up here. We came out here when I was in the 3rd grade. What you should know is that diversity, or the integration of schools, was a federal requirement in the 1960s, right? That's when it had to take place by federal law. But Colorado Springs didn't have a ton of African Americans, right? So it didn't really happen in this city. It was legal and required, but it didn't actually take place until the 80s, which is about when I got to the town, all right? So having African Americans in public schools was just kind of a rare thing, particularly where I grew up, District 20, in the north end of town, where my parents, who were both military, they struggled to buy a nice house for their family, as many families do, but they were looking at school districts and where would be the best place to raise their kids. And the north end of Colorado Springs is where they wanted to be, but it was a stretch financially for them, right? So they worked hard to get us in the best schools possible. And I'm proud to say I'm a product of District 20 schools. Go Liberty, class of 1995, right? But in my graduating class, there were 5 Black people in my entire graduating class, okay? And so it was a struggle. There were like 600 people in my class, and 5 of them were African American. So obviously we stuck out like a sore thumb. There weren't very many of us, right? And that's not, that's just goes to say that there wasn't much diversity in the city overall. Well, that was way back in the 90s. Here we are in 2025, and I can still say that there's a lack of diversity, especially at the government level in our city today, right? And this means that when people are looking at moving to Colorado Springs as one of their potential choices for a place they want to live, they're going to look, especially if they're African American or other cultures, they're going to look overall at the diversity of the city and make a decision based on whether it's a good city to live in. This is important to real estate investors because we want to make sure that we're attractive, right? If we're going to invest in this city, either for homes we're going to buy to rent or homes we're going to buy to fix up and sell, it's important that there's a general migration of people from other cities who come here. I'm a member of several Facebook groups that focus on African Americans, and people are always asking, what do you think about the diversity here in Colorado Springs? And the answer is usually not favorable, right? We're just not known for a huge amount of African-American events. There's a good amount of African-American people here, but you don't see a ton of events, and we don't have a huge jazz following. There's a lot of things that you see in larger cities that implies that there's a good amount of diversity. I lived in Denver for several years, and there's another city that had a Black mayor for some period of time. A couple of Black city council members had come and go in that city, and you felt the diversity in Denver at a much higher level, right? There was just a natural transgression where you felt there was music everywhere of different types, different African-American based festivals, a huge African-American or African art district that was just big in Denver. That I attended a couple galleries down there. You felt the diversity, you felt the love for different cultures. And I'm not saying that I grew up in this town, okay? I'm not saying that people are not accepting of other cultures. What I'm saying is you don't see it. It's that the presence is not there here as it is in other cultures that have that proper diversification. So this is important to real estate investors because we've got to look at the city overall and look at areas that we can improve. A Black mayor was a huge step in a positive direction. It shows that the city is open to that diversity, but a Black mayor who doesn't have any empowerment at the city council level or much support at the city council level, which is just how it felt, okay? And I'm not necessarily saying the city council didn't fully support Yemi. I'm saying that Mayor Yemi struggles, I think, to feel that support and get that. It's because there's just not any other people of different races sitting at city council to support him. So I just think that's so important. I'm so proud of Kim and Roland for really breaking through that race barrier and working through this process to get these things done and work with people to change this diversity, to add to African-American businesses here in town, to diversify the city so more people are encouraged to come here. And that diversity has proven time and time again to be beneficial to the economic landscape of cities who focus on diversity. Now, I'm not talking about DEI and some of the overstepping systems that are out there now to to add, and I'm not, again, it's not about not just African-American culture, but I'm really talking about representation, okay? If you have proper representation at every level of government, you will find that some of the problems that we face as a city would be easier to overcome if we had that representation. If you're watching live today, I would love to hear your thoughts. What are your comments? Shoot your comments on screen here. I'll load them on the screen. What do you think about the diversity in Colorado Springs? And is it important to a growing city? In my opinion, it's critical, right? So getting involved in politics became a natural byproduct. I don't want to run for office necessarily because I'm not really cut out to not say what I feel. And I think a good politician has to have some degree of tact. And I think I lack that in a public setting. If I don't like something, I'm pretty vocal about it. What I love about working with Kim and Roland and talking to them about, how they're going to change some issues, they also understand that you got to be able to play nice. Okay. So I'm not really vetted for political position. I don't think. Maybe things will feel differently later. But I like the idea of somebody who's professional in politics, who really values that role to be stepping in. And now we've got 2 African-American faces on city council. And I'm excited by that opportunity, both as an African-American here in the city, but also as a person who understands that the diversity is a critical matter as it relates to real estate investing. I do want to take you back a little bit to where diversity didn't function in Colorado Springs. And many people don't know about redlining. And I'm actually doing a talk today at UCCS to talk about redlining and how it affected the Colorado Springs real estate market. I think I'm going to record it, so I may broadcast that later if you guys want to check that out. But I was invited by a good friend of mine and professor at UCCS to speak at this class today, so I'm super excited about that. But one of the things we're going to be discussing is how in the 1960s, once again, before fair housing laws were in place, there were districts in the city where you couldn't offer government loans. So VA loans and FHA loans, which offered much lower down payments, were not offered in these districts. Well, the district that was most impacted on that in the 1960s was the Pikes Peak Park area, right? And the Pikes Peak Park area is going to be useful to understand that when this was a red line district, that a lot of houses didn't get built or bought in there because you couldn't get government loans to build or buy in that region. As a result, that area suffered economically for a very, very long time. And when I first got started in real estate investing, and this was back in let's go just after the collapse. So 2009, 2010, I was buying homes in the Pikes Peak Park area for as low as $80,000. We were putting $20,000 to $30,000 into them and selling them for $150,000. And to be honest with you, we couldn't keep up with the demand. There was a lot of need for affordable housing. Meanwhile, the rest of Colorado Springs, though, was trading in the 250s to 300s at that point, and obviously continued to go up from there. Pikes Peak Park today, and mostly because of real estate investors, not me individually, but Pikes Peak Park today, I'm proud to say, is about $400,000 on average. But that came from taking those houses from 80 to 150, then taking them from 150 to 250, then taking them from 250 to the early threes, et cetera, on up to the 400,000 there are back. That's critical. If you're going to grow a city, people need to come here and know that they're going to make more money in the city's area, in the city areas of the city by buying into the city. So if you don't have that diversity and you have redlining preventing that from happening, the ripple effect on that has lasted since the 1960s and before to today. We're talking about 100-year spread almost, where that area is still economically disadvantaged because of the policies that were prevalent back then. Obviously, we've come a long way with federal housing. The city is definitely not as slanted or racist, and we're not the only city who had redlining. Okay, so this was not limited to Colorado Springs, but it was pronounced here a little bit. There was a big movement of racist groups like the Ku Klux Klan had a big stronghold here. There was actually a movie written called Black Klansman that talks about how the founding Ku Klux Klan, or one of the big centers, was actually started in Black Forest, just to the north of Colorado Springs. Okay, so we are not unknown for some racist policies, but that speaks for every city in the country. You're going to find that if you dig deep enough and you look back in time. So that we're not uncommon for that. But change has not happened at the political levels to make that less prevalent and less prominent in the city. So I believe now is a great time bringing in Kim and Roland to the stage here and helping them to we want to get behind them is what I'm telling you. As a real estate investor of every shade and color, you should be looking at what's happening at the city council level and realizing that we've already started to make a difference. The people have spoken. I think there's an understanding that diversity is super important to the long-term growth of the city, and now we are seeing it at the city council level. And I am also excited about what it means for the city's growth and what the cultural changes can be. Now they've got a little bit of empowerment at the city council level to make some of these changes. So, congratulations once again to Kim Gold and Roland Rainey. I'm so proud of you guys. Thanks for all that you're doing for the city. Know that it does not go unnoticed. We all know the value, the importance of what you're doing, and we're excited about big things that you guys can do for the city today. It starts here. It's a big step, and we're really excited to see where it goes from there. So with that, if you're a real estate investor, you want to know what's happening at the political level at all times, okay? And that's something I had to learn recently, is it's not just houses, it's what's happening to the city that's around it, right? And so we want to work through that. We want to help you guys to get that done. And work through that. If you want to have a discussion about diversity in the economic system and how it relates to real estate and how it relates to the foreclosure profit system that can help you to find a deal, analyze it through our figure stage, fund it, fix it, and flip it, and make a profit of $25,000 or more on average with the deals that we're doing, I would love to chat with you more about that. Simply head out to foreclosureprofitsystem.com. Once again, that's foreclosureprofitsystem.com. And let's have a discussion about that. But in the meantime, I wanted to use today's show to just bring some light to what's happening at the city council level and the fact that things are in fact changing in our fair city, and they're just going to get better from here. So I'm excited to be a part of that. With that, this is Donnie Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in each and every single week to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast, and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.